Only one way to stop artists and creators from walking the dark path: by leaving a mean comment on the internet. Giving criticism is a fine and delicate art form that requires nuance and careful consideration in order to effectively give feedback to a creator.
Everything's shiny and shitty. I don't like it. That's the long and short of it. I don't need a reason, goddammit. Used to be, if you didn't know how to fucking write, nobody would listen to your critique. Nobody would listen to your comments because you sound like an idiot.
Much like how a bulldozer demolishes a house. Fear not, because giving criticism is not a skill, so you don't have to worry about honing your ability to give feedback. It's not like a writer can learn anything by reading the works of others with a critical eye, as well as sharpening their ability to workshop scenes in order to fix key problems.
No, I fucked up. Well, I don't make
Nate, I don't want your fucking criticism.
Well,
I don't care.
It's the marketplace of ideas.
If you think it's not a fucking marketplace.
It's your world where you're going.
I mean, I can't see how those could be applied to one's own writing. Instead, giving criticism should be seen as an opportunity to cut loose and put other creators down in order to elevate a writer's own position.
PCP. I think Monkey was the worst co-host on the PCP. Monkey was rarely funny. He often didn't talk much. He was often the least talkative, and when he talked, it wasn't that interesting. Like, I love my own videos. I watch them all fucking day. I've made hundreds of videos about anime, making hundreds of great points, and these motherfuckers don't even fucking respect that fact.
Now, the first thing to know about giving criticism is that this is personal.
Fuck you.
Be sure to grind any confidence the author has into dust so you can laugh at the broken remains of their creative ambitions. Isn't it great to be drunk on power?
Because the real point here is just to shit on Fate, to vent over being upset that I got a bunch of shitty commenters on my Fate video. Hey, fuck Fate. Here's a video. You know, fuck Fate. I just hate. I have hatred in my heart. I'm a hateful man. I'm a hate machine. I hate lots of things and lots of people.
Are you not a sadist who subsists entirely upon the tears of authors? Getting hung up on petty nitpicks no one else cares about.
Funnily enough, our first panty shot is decidedly not tantalizing on account of Light Novel Girl apparently has no ass whatsoever, but the camera pans up quickly to hide it and to get into some bra territory.
Hate scenes that take place in a coffee shop? Better spend the entire critique rambling about how awful coffee shop scenes are.
He's playing the game and not just sitting around in a virtual bar watching videos. Kirito's scene in the cafe ends at 19 minutes and 22 seconds into the episode.
I mean, there is the scene where Mary Sue preaches about animal rights for 12 pages straight, or the part where the antihero slaughters orphans for shock value, but no, the mere inclusion of a coffee shop scene is clearly the problem. The mere fact the scene takes place in a coffee shop is simply unforgivable. Worst story ever. Oh hey, hyperbole!
I'm the greatest anime YouTuber. If you don't think so, fuck you.
Hyperbole is great when giving critiques. The label of worst book ever should be carelessly thrown about because clearly this story is worse than a book that makes 50 Shades look like Sesame Street or a book that helped pave the way for World War II. Likewise, the label of best book ever is equally helpful when it comes to helping an author improve with feedback. Gotta help that author build an echo chamber.
Am I saying I want a safe space? Yes, I am saying that. We all want that. Why would you not want that?
The label of worst book ever can also be handy shorthand for I'm not the intended audience.
This bitching about Fate is not for Fate fans, who obviously are gonna feel differently. They obviously aren't going to want to hear this, but it's not for them. It's not a video for people who like Fate. It's a video for people like me who think the Fate franchise is dumb and want to complain about it. You know, because they're sick of Fate fans. It's just unfortunate that the people who are going to watch a video called Fate Apocrypha every week are going to be Fate fans.
And I know this is a fantasy story with knights and dragons, but it would be really cool if you added robots and spaceships, and instead of a fantasy world, it could be an alien planet, and instead of princesses, there could be space marines who fight robotic precursor aliens, and instead of a quest to free the world from the clutches of a dark lord, it could be a high-stakes political thriller between rival planetary governments. Who cares that this is basically a completely different story? Obviously, the creator should completely change their story based on the subjective taste of a single critic.
Kirito's PTSD is easily the most interesting thing that has ever happened to his character, even if the show doesn't really go anywhere with it. And having another character who could bounce their feelings off of him, as well as a villain tied to his dark past, was a good plan. Setting a story about PTSD in a dark and serious realistic shooter game was an excellent idea, and it got me thinking about how this arc could have been great. Specifically, Gun Gale Online should have been Heart of Darkness, aka Apocalypse Apocalypse Now, aka Spec Ops: The Line.
Nor should a critic consider moving on to something better aligned with their personal taste and area of expertise. In fact, the more one hates something, the more time and energy they should dedicate to bashing it. Start entire blogs or even multiple YouTube channels dedicated to just how horrible this story is and go over every minor error in excruciating detail. Feed this obsession well past the point of rational critique. Who cares that this obsession is creating content that is driving traffic to the very thing it was made to hate? Nothing should get in the way of this obsession, especially not stuff like learning a new skill, reading a book outside your usual comfort zone, pick up a new hobby, dusting off an old forgotten hobby, going on a walk, writing your own story, adopting a pet, exercising, relaxing, or watching paint dry, or just anything. Just do anything else. Clearly, spending your time obsessing over a crappy story is a great cause to dedicate your finite amount of time to. After all, only you can save pop culture from insert ism here.
Yellow is in the eye of the beholder of yellow. We can't tell a man what is or isn't yellow. We can only tell him what we perceive. And just as some people might say, well, there is a God, and therefore morality is determined by what my God says, the next guy who doesn't believe in that God will say, you're wrong. And neither one you can really, say is right. I mean, you can have scientific observations to back your claims, but who's to say that science is correct, right? So there's really no way of disproving what is or isn't yellow by each individual person's standard.
Don't learn to break down a story to try to understand why it's popular, when one can instead attack the story because it's popular. Telling die-hard fans they are stupid for liking something will definitely win them over, and I'm sure the author will instantly give up their success when faced with a minority of critical voices screaming obscenities and racial slurs at them. Helps to remember that criticism should never be given with grace or empathy. When has understanding had anything to do with critique? Breaking down a story into strengths and weaknesses in order to let the original author decide how best to fix or mitigate flaws while preserving the story's strengths just isn't as easy as mindlessly praising it or mercilessly tearing it to pieces. Those with creative aspirations should feel free to be as overwhelmingly negative as they wish and should never worry that one day it might be their turn.
I don't know, man. Is it an insult to say that somebody's video looks yellow? No one knows what the fuck you're talking about, unless you explain it. And if you explain it, it's a waste of time. What universe am I in? Where the fuck am I? Where am I that we can even talk about this? Why is this happening? I take criticism. My criticism is misguided and unclear, and all of it contradicts each other.